So, welcome everyone to yet another episode of the People, Passion, and Purpose podcast. As you can see in the background, so it's a podcast that's been a long time in the making, and it's the connection I think that's kicked off over the last 3 years and continues to be a very interesting conversation. And as always with Neeraja, it's always a joy to have you. So let me welcome my guest for today's episode, Neeraja Ganesh. Hi, Neeraja. Thank you so much for coming.
It's my pleasure. I'm sorry that I kept you waiting, but yeah, there's a time for everything, as they say, and today is that time.
Yeah, yes. So I just want to remind the viewers and also maybe just put it back to your memory. So there was one LinkedIn post I think in early 2020 that described what happens. One volunteering initiative that we'd done when I was previously back at Posh. So it was actually working with people who work in the housekeeping space. And then I described one one lady is actually her journey of how she actually comes along, learns English, learns computer in our volunteering initiatives, and how a day looks like. And I think that was when Madhura, you got introduced in that post, and it's been after that a very interesting thing for you, especially for me to look at all of the podcasts that you do and listening to a few of them. Yeah, officially, if I had to introduce Neeraja, I think it's like I told you before, it's very difficult to do a very short bio. So I think she started her IT profession when I was just born. So I think I was 4 to 5 months old when Neeraja began her rapid journey. So you can imagine. So my life experience is equal to her only office experience. So I've got a very interesting personality here. So she currently heads the education initiatives at Aspire for Her. Very interesting initiative. I think we'll talk more about that. And then she is very passionate about the positive mindset shift among women and students. And she's a guest speaker in a lot of places. And she's won awards, I think, for TEDx in Danan Sagar, if I remember right. I think whenever I've seen Neeraja, I think she's there in some podcast sharing about her networking, a few other staple initiatives that she runs. It's always fascinating to see her. And then, as always, I think another thing is that Neeraja is always adorning a sari, always graceful. Uh, yeah, that's on one observation I made. I wanted to just also bring it up here. She's worked for jobs for her, Capgemini, NZ, Sonata. I think Sonata is when you began your career. And yeah, she's a Vijaya College alumnus with BSc in mathematics. And more so, I think it's interesting to just go through the list. She's also a published author. You Have Arrived. So it's a very interesting book. I like the cover page first, and then I'm yet to read the stories, but then hopefully someday I will get to that. But you can always, the listeners and viewers can always get in touch by it. So I think also how to tell your story is something she also shares as one of her initiatives. And I think the list goes on, and let the person share more. So welcome, Neeraja. So thank you so much for being here again.
My pleasure. And I like the way you introduced it. Was not a standard reading of the bio, but you kind of tried to match things in the way you probably came across me and my work. And thank you for that. The only correction I will make is the book is yet to be published. The cover page went out, but the book didn't go out. I think that is one of the things where I did not follow my own discipline, which I keep preaching to others about. It's half done, and I think the motivation for getting the book out was in the year when I was going to turn 50, but it was a COVID year and there was enough and more that was going wrong, and I couldn't finish it at that age. And then that motivation is no longer there. It can happen at any age, but please keep reminding me like this so that I get to finish it.
Yes, yes. So I can be your coach in this. I can help you get to that place.
Right. Surely.
Yeah, that is interesting. So books are always good. So I think I love the cover of the book. Uh, Very, very interesting. And so I don't know where to start this podcast. So there's so many tangents that I want to speak to. So you choose where do you want to start?
Okay, I think let's talk about how we met and you know what makes me do those things which bring in connections like this, right? There's absolutely nothing in common maybe at that point in time, but we just connected, right? And that is the power of also networking. So maybe let's start there. So I wasn't like this forever. Actually, I have been a very meek, timid, shy person as I grew. I was born into a conservative family, and I kind of remained very quiet through my school, college, and the first 10 years of my work also. And I was happy being that way. And things changed, and that's something that we'll speak about if time permits. Um, but in terms of the networking, I think I always networked, despite the fact that I kept quiet. I mean, networking doesn't mean, you got to keep talking to people. And that's something that people misunderstand. They say, oh, introverts can't network, right? You need to be an extrovert to network. I think that's a very wrong notion. Because the definition of networking, as I keep telling people, is what can you give to others? And to give to others, you don't have to really, keep talking. You can be very quiet and give. And I think that giving always happened in my life. People used to come to me during in school, say, okay, I was always a maths geek, so teach them maths. Now, when I moved to Bangalore from Indore, so I grew up in Indore. My first 12 years were in Indore, and then we moved to Bangalore. So Indore, of course, my Hindi was very good. So when I came and joined the school in Bangalore, and I used to speak good Hindi, people came to me for learning Hindi. So the help was always there. I think that's why I would say I always networked. Just that the circle was smaller. I did it, people who knew me and I knew them. I didn't go out of that circle to find new people and then help, which is where the transformation happened, I think, in 2016. And let me narrate that story. So I was in Capgemini. So you're right, I started my IT career with Sonata 2 years as a programmer in Bangalore. Everyone will start their career with IT, I think, largely. And then I went to Manhattan Associates for 2 years, again as a programmer. Then I joined ANZ, which used to be called Index Computing in those days. And I started as a programmer there. And then, of course, grow into the leadership roles. And then I moved to Capgemini. Again, it was not a very intentional move. So very interestingly, the only company that I joined and resigned on my own was Sonata. Okay. And I was really very sad when I put in my papers. First job, it was only 2 years that I was there, and I put in my papers, and I came home and I told my father, feeling very, very bad about it. And he told me my father was working at MRF and he left after 24 years.
Oh, wow.
Everyone looks forward to, in that age era, people look forward to the 25th, anniversary in a job. He had to leave it when he finished 24 because of some transfers that happened, and he couldn't kind of take that. So he said, imagine how hurt I would have been and how difficult it would have been for me to, you're leaving in 2 years, what's the big deal, right? But that was the only one which I resigned of my own, and I went to Manhattan Associates. Manhattan Associates closed shop in India after 2 years. And most of them, I mean, they were going back to the US. They are a US company. They had set up shop in India, and for some reason, they shut that shop and they decided to operate only from US. This is 1996. So they chose a few people to take with them to US. The rest kind of had to find their own jobs. I was chosen to go to US, but I never had a fancy for anything outside of India. That's another thing. And I think I'm going all over the place, but maybe we will come back. Another thing about me is that I'm very clear about my priorities. So I've lived my life as per what my priorities are. Not that others don't, but people, if I were to ask them, what's your priority? I think they will tell me three things. And I say, can you prioritize it one, two, three? And they say, no, all three are same priority. I said, that's not possible. So for me, I was very clear about my priority, which is that I need to be in India because I am the only child and my parents, are here. And I knew at some point in time they will be lonely and, I will need to be around them. So I took that call many, many years ago. So I didn't go with them to US. So I had no choice but to look for another job. So I joined ANZ. ANZ also, I would have retired from there if they had kept me. But after 16 years, the business unit which was testing services, got outsourced to Capgemini. So all of us who were part of that team in ANZ became Capgemini employees. We got rebacked. So that's my story of moving between companies. Coming back to the networking piece. So in 2016 in Capgemini, I was asked to put out a recommendation to hire women on a career break.
Mm-hmm.
I've never taken a break in my career, right? So I thought, what is the big deal about this? Like, you hire a man, you hire a woman, you go hire a woman on a career break. I mean, what is a recommendation paper, etc.? But then you can't tell that to the management. So you have to write something. So I did some research and I realized that there were portals, job portals, exclusively for women on a career break. Then I spoke to some of my friends who had kind of taken a break and I realized how these portals help. So I just kind of wrote something and gave it. And because I'd done the research, I had registered myself on one of those portals.
Mm-hmm.
And they were doing a conference and they invited me because I was one of their registered users. Now, I was not on a break. I was not contemplating a break, but I still landed up at that conference. And I still don't know why. Because till then, I have never done anything outside of work and home, right? In Bangalore, 5 days, you are kind of traveling between Alsur and Belandu. And on the 6 and 7 days, you've got enough stuff to do at home. I had a young child, so, and in-laws and parents in the same city. So it kept me busy. I don't know why, but certain things are destined to happen, right? On a Saturday, I went to this full day event fighting with my husband. He said, why do you have to go? You're not going to take a break, right? Why do you want to go? I said, no, let me go. And that just transformed, my mindset and thinking, because I heard from these women stories of how difficult it was for them even to come to an interview stage because they were on a break. And then if they reached the interview stage, the kind of questions that they were asked. I mean, it's not criminal to take a break. All of us take for, valid reasons. You have a child that you have to care for, you have some elders that you have to care for. Your husband is moving because his career is kind of important and priority, so you move. Or you just kind of want to relax, so you take a break. But it was considered as if, they create that it was not something, the right thing to do. And I decided I have to do something about this. A couple of more things happened at that conference. Till then, as I told you, the only conferences I may have attended was what your office pushes you to attend.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been in IT and I have been in the banking domain. So forever you're only interacting and going to IT conferences in the banking space. Same people, same thought process. Because I came here, we had very different speakers who came from the startup world and from all kinds of industries. And I felt simple things that they were telling. Why is it that I was not thinking about it? A simple thing that and I will talk, Instamojo founder, forgetting his name, but yeah, he said this to the women who had taken a break, right? Why is it that you have to always look at the past of what you had done and look at your future career also in the same space?
Mm.
So if you were a Java programmer, why is it that after 5 years of a break, you have to look at Java or, programming? He said, look at your strengths and what kind of roles and industries those strengths can be useful in. Suddenly the basket of opportunities expands for you. And I thought, yeah, it's a great thing. Because one of the things that I was doing when I was going through that job portal for women on a career break, while I was not really keenly thinking of a break, I thought if ever I decide to do a part-time job, I couldn't find anything relevant for me after 24 years of work ex. IT jobs were only like data entry. There was nothing else, which came as part-time jobs for IT. And I thought I have to do only IT because that's where I have lived all my life for 24 years. And this just changed it for me. I said, yeah, why should it be IT? What are my strengths? So if you see, the next thing that I did after leaving my corporate in 2017 was heading the jobs for her foundation. Mm-hmm. An NGO I have never, ever, worked in. I headed that. Okay. And if I were to reflect all my strengths, my stakeholder management, which I did very well, in my corporate, is what came to use because I had to build partnerships for an NGO. My communication skills came to help because I built communities and I wrote newsletters, I did content, everything. An NGO is a lean organization. You are one person, you do everything. So, so many things happened in that conference. And I thought to myself, why is it that I'm not thinking like this? The realization came by that my network, the circle, was very closed, same, mindsets, same thinking, same conversations. So I said, now how do I mean, I can't be attending conferences every other day. I had a day job also. So I said, let me follow these people on LinkedIn, right? I was very scared to send connection requests. By the way, I created a LinkedIn profile only in 2016. That's because I was thinking of moving jobs and somebody said you should be on LinkedIn. And I created one, profile. So very few people I had connected because even then I was very conscious of who I would send requests to. Only people with whom I worked. So the other social media that I was on Facebook. That again, because one of my friends pestered me and I got into it a few years before. And I kept it very, very close, friends and family. And LinkedIn was only professionals with whom I worked. So no new person can enter that network. So I started to connect was very scary. So I said, let me follow these people. So Sampath Swain, he was the founder of Instamoto, and all these people who came and spoke at that event, because I thought that way, at least when they write something, it will kind of be an eye opener for me. And suddenly LinkedIn became very interesting because it's their feed now which is coming and I'm reading what somebody else is saying or resharing, posting. And then there was no stopping. I started attending as many conferences, meetups that I could. If I couldn't, I would connect with the speakers and tell them, sorry, I'm not able to attend this one, but I would like to remain connected with you so that I know when the next one is happening. And suddenly my network expanded on LinkedIn. That's what happened. So when I quit from the corporate world, I had a large network on LinkedIn and from the conferences, meetups that I had, kind of gone to. So before I quit, 3 months, I was on leave because there was a lot of personal, things not going too well from a health perspective. My mother had a surgery and then my husband fell very ill. Then my father-in-law fell ill. My father-in-law passed away. So I had taken leave for 6 weeks to care for my mother, just extended for 3 months. But one of the things that I did, even during that caregiving period, was step out of the house for 2 hours every day. Because it wasn't as if, I had to be there 24/7. I lived in a joint family. So I kind of stepped out at a time when maybe the person who was caring for was sleeping. And there was others who could kind of, take care of them and did something. What was I doing for those 2 hours? I was meeting all these people that I had connected with. Because somewhere I felt I did not want to go back to the corporate world. 3 months of leave, and then if I go back, or who knows, I was really looking for a role when I go back, which will not have too much of travel because I wanted to be at home to care for all these people. So somewhere I felt if I don't get a role like that, and if I leave, I may not want to go back to a corporate setup. So let me explore what is possible. The good thing was that whoever I'd connected on LinkedIn or just casually met at a conference, everyone accepted to meet.
Amazing.
That was something which I never imagined. And they asked me where I live. And they found a cafe or a lunch place near where I live. That was just too much. So I didn't even have to travel too far to meet them. I mean, those days we were meeting in person. Of course, then the Zoom arrived because of the pandemic. And what it did to me was build my confidence that even if I were to leave the corporate setup, there's something that I can do. Keeping money aside, we'll find out how to make money, but keeping the money aspect aside, there's enough and more that I can do because they were all happy to collaborate with me. I just needed to give a proposal of what we could do together. So that's how my story of networking started. So takeaways, definition of networking is helping others. It's not about what you can get from them. It's about what you can do, right? And it will come back to you. Almost every opportunity that I have gotten is because of that giving that I did at some point in time. It has come back in very different ways, unimagined. So that. Two, you should, even on social media platforms, you got to network. Yeah, do it in a professional manner, and keep the connection alive. So, as Sunil was saying, um, I must have found something interesting about his work. I may have wanted to offer something, I don't know. Or maybe I felt that he can connect me for something, that I was after. So we had a conversation. And look at what's happening now, right? We're doing this together, and we may do many other things together in the future, which you've not imagined. My tips on networking for people are that definition. What can you give? To build a very diverse network. It doesn't matter, you don't have to look for only the CEOs of the world to be in your network. Even the junior, people, the younger people, college students, everyone, it is important, because it is that diversity of your network which is going to kind of enable you to help, and also then, receive the help when you want. And third, keep in touch. One time meeting and forgetting doesn't help, right?
Yeah.
How do you keep in touch? That's another day. You can look at all my networking videos, but you keep in touch. Doesn't mean every 2 weeks you have to call up someone. That's not what I mean. But when you meet them for the first time, and you genuinely meet them, you genuinely try to find out what they are interested in, you will remember them when such a thing comes your way, right? So I will always remember Sunil as a coach, as a writer, and if something were to come my way, which I feel it will help him, I may not have spoken to him for 6 months, but I'll suddenly ping him after 6 months and say, Sunil, this might be interesting for you, right? So that's how my story of, I think I covered a lot. I covered my life, I covered networking, I covered, how I jumped out of my corporate into what I did. And yeah, so
Mm.
yes.
Yeah, so many, like it's opened up another list of tangents, another list of questions. But just to maybe add on to that, in terms of connecting to people, I think there's also a lot of intimidation saying, hey, I don't know, I've never met them before. They may be, higher experience, they have a lot of life experience. I think maybe my 2 cents to it is correct genuinely, because at the end of the day, everybody is a person, has a story, is a personality, and if you're able to be genuine, that genuinity is going to show off through LinkedIn, through any social media, or even one to one, and people will remember you. So I'd met, Vijay Ratna Parke, who was the previous president of BGSW of Wash, for a lunch date after being, the top contributor for CSR for 3 years. And then I'd taken a sabbatical, 9 months. I'd come back somewhere out there. I'd come back to the office, and then I was in the main office in Kormangla. And then he was in the lift. So we met at the lift. Then we saw each other, and I was like, I don't know who this person is. It seems very familiar. We got into the lift, and he's like, Pungi, is that you? Like, Vijay, you have taken off your mustache. So you never know who's going to come through with that. And if at all we were thinking, oh, he's the president, can I talk, can I not talk, is he going to remember me, not remember me? It's all about the connections you build, how genuine it is. So yeah, very interesting set of things that you said. Keeping in touch, I think, is very important. We could do that pretty easily, and like I said, it's a separate podcast. Podcast. Hmm. So I was like I heard Indore, I heard a joint family. So Pungi's podcast is never complete without nostalgia of going back to the early childhood. So how was it growing up for you in Indore? Maybe coming back to Bangalore, coming to Bangalore.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, as I said, childhood was a very quiet childhood. Didn't have too many friends when hanging around and all of that, right? I went to school, I studied. Actually, meek, timid, shy girl, plain Jane, with no fancy marks. That was nature. So basically, a nobody, right? And then if you don't speak, then you're forgotten. So I just happened to be there in the class. I just happened to be there in the neighborhood. And that's how I spent the first 12 years. Even the family, I'm guessing that, I was just there as one of the family members amongst my cousins and all of that, because there was nothing very fancy and something that people will look at Neeraja or, think about her. That's how I grew up. And even for the first 10 years of my career, I was very quiet. I didn't even say hi to the person who was sitting next to me because that's how shy I was.
Mm.
I was good at my work, programming. And in those days, we really didn't have all of this agile or, you need to speak to someone. And we've got a very good spec. We just had to code and test it and give it back. And I was good, so there were no defects. Nobody came and bothered me. Otherwise, you will fight with the tester, right? So even that part didn't happen. And life continued. I used to have my lunch all by myself. I used to have my coffee all by myself. That is how I was for the first 10 years. So childhood was that without too many friends, but people came to me because I was helpful. So that set of friends were always there. Even recently, so when I look at, say, my daughter's, so she's gone to school, she's done PU somewhere else, and she's doing her degree somewhere else. I don't see, her friends hanging around and they meeting up the way my friends, after so many years, are still in touch. And people, of course, locals hardly meet. We have to wait for this one foreign person to come up, one US person, one somebody will come from somewhere, and then we'll make our meetup plans. But they will always connect with me and say, Neeraja, I'm here. Let's, finalize something and meet up. So I've been that fulcrum, for everyone. And everyone feels comfortable in terms of, being with me and sharing with me. And I kind of do the thing for everyone. So that's how my childhood was. And of course, I didn't have much connects in Indore. I mean, only the neighborhood. When we came from Indore to Bangalore, we used to write letters. In those days, it was, the snail mail that we used to send. It continued for a few months, and then it stopped. Everyone got busy in their lives. So Bangalore, yes, again, as a quiet person, but that set of friends has remained intact. People trust me. They open up, to me about whatever they are, kind of coping with in life, because they know that I'm not someone who's going to judge people, right? I will offer what I can in terms of help or advice, or just be there as a listener. I'm very good at listening. Active listening is something that I do very well. And sometimes people only need that. Someone to listen to, right? Yeah. Someone who can listen to. So that's how I think my growth from childhood to now has been. And if I were to reflect about who I became, I told you, that, okay, of course, I talk a lot now. The joke is that, when someone asks my mother, so what does your daughter do? So till I was in IT and corporate, she had something to say, right? Director in Capgemini, that was my last role. After that, also head of jobs for her foundation. Now, ever since I quit from all of these, I worked at National College. So there was a title again. Now I just freelance, right? She speaks a lot. That's all I know. Forever she's speaking. So I do speak. But I believe I have grown to whatever I have grown because I have just been myself. In those quiet years, in those, shy years also, I think I have observed a lot what happened around me. I have reflected a lot, and I have chosen a path. Largely, it has been very different to, what was happening in that era. So I chose not to go for engineering. I did a BSc Maths, Economics, Computer Science. Okay. I chose to get married to someone who was in India in the early 90s when everybody was going to the US. IT boom, and the job market in the US was, thriving. We were earning in dollars, and today, of course, dollar and rupee comparison, I don't want to go there, but it was a lot. It converted the dollar into rupee and, brought back to India. I mean, lifestyle change, and we come from middle class families, right? I chose to, stay in India. I told my parents, find whoever you can, and I did, of course, it was an arranged marriage, but person has to be in India. Everybody thought I had gone crazy. with the decisions that I was taking. But I knew why I wanted. So that way, I think I had a vision. I knew why I was taking those decisions. A long term, I knew how it would help me and help my parents, as an example. Today, I do find a lot of my friends who are abroad struggling because one, they can't leave their jobs from there and come back here. In fact, a friend of mine from UK, she met me a couple of months back. She had come here because her mother is really, ailing, very difficult, and she is herself is a doctor. Okay, so I said, why can't you just kind of come and find something here? Kids have kind of gone off to uni, so it's not that for kids you have to be at home. She said, you know what? I don't think I'll find a job in India. That's the thing. She said, India is so forward thinking, and people here are so creative and so ahead that some of us there can't really fit in here. So getting a job probably here is not going to happen. Leaving the job and coming here with no job is not going to happen. Parents are aging. It is only stress and worry. And I probably was able to visualize this many, many years ago, and I chose to be here. And I did whatever was available here. I think I got to do a good job, and I made the money in Indian rupees. And again, because there was contentment, I was not after that person has this car and that person has 2 flats, none of that. I still remember, I was a leader in ANZ with some fancy title, and one of the youngsters in my team was in the lift and asking me, what car do you own, ma'am? We have only one car, which I don't drive with my husband. It's a Wagon R. Okay. He said, ma'am, what car do you drive? It's a Wagon R that we have at home. And I usually go by Ola and Uber, and I'm happy with that. He couldn't believe it, because he thinks that, at that designation, you have to own something bigger. And I didn't care, right? A car is a car. That's me. So I've just been myself. And I think that has been the success and the happiness behind me and my life, right? So the conversation on the saris, so many people ask me. I've just felt, comfortable in this. And I feel you must wear what you are comfortable in, one, to what you're able to gracefully carry off, right? I don't think I can carry off anything else. Even in Indian attire, I feel maybe a simple salwar, okay, some days, but largely saris. That's what I carry off. And there are, stories about my sari also. So I was invited, rather nominated to be part of a senior women's leadership development program when I was in Capgemini. We were 11 women who got nominated across Capgemini globally. And so the nomination process itself would have been very exhausting in terms of who should go, and there will be fights to say my person, your person, and all of that. I got into it. The coordinator, she said the dress code. It was a residential program to be conducted in Paris, 4 days. Dress code is Western formals. And I said, see, I don't wear Western formals. So I will wear what is formal in India, which is a salwar or a sari. I will wear that. She was taken aback that I could even say that. Okay. And Capgemini University in Paris runs tons of courses through the year. It's a huge university there. So, which means nobody till then had objected to that. Okay. And to myself, I thought, if dress code is what will get me a seat in that, I don't think, I want to go. I mean, leadership is not based on what you wear, right? It is something else. So she said, okay, I'll discuss. And she went and discussed, and she came back and she said, okay, Neeraja, you can wear salwars, but just wear muted colors. Because I mean this bright color, right? We wear oranges and reds. We are happy with our colors, but you go now, I think even the Western formals are colorful. Okay, now I do see a lot of nice bright colors, but they're gray, white, beige, black, muted colors. So I went with that. And the thing that I noticed there was, we had people from US, UK, Japan, and then there were 3 of us from India. It was in May. It was the spring in Paris and getting into summer, beautiful weather. The only 3 people from India, excepting me, there was, I think, 4 of us from India. Only those 3 were in Western formals. Everybody else wore something comfortable. If they wore trousers, it was not a formal trouser, something they were comfy with. Skirts, they were comfortable because they kind of aligned into the weather, nice colors and, flowery clothes and all of that. So why are we the ones who complying and struggling with it? So that's me and my sari. So even recently, I went for a mehendi function. So these days, everything has a mehendi. Mehendi, while it is not a South Indian tradition for a wedding, so-called mehendi and sangeet. I went for a mehendi function and I wore a sari to it. And everybody there was in salwars, including people who are older to me, younger to me. And not that, elder to me should not wear salwars, but I'm saying there's a stereotype of age and what you wear. I went in a sari because I feel I'm graceful in that, and that's the only thing that I can pull off. And I look better in that than any other thing. So that's me. Neeraja Ganesh will be herself. And that's the title of my TEDx talk also, Be Yourself. And that is a story of Neeraja. Just be yourself. Do what you really want to do, regardless of what the rest of the world is doing. And I'm saying it in a nice way. I'm not saying that, okay, you'll be unethical and, not that way. If there is, what you want to do, and that is very different to the rest of the world, doesn't matter, because that is what is going to give you happiness and success. Just aping somebody else and following somebody else is not going to give you that. So yeah, that's me.
Absolutely. I think that is also true in terms of many other things. I think you're well respected by people from all walks of life because you stick to what you are, say, passionate about or what you believe you are. And being yourself is the most easiest thing to do because then you can concentrate on all the things you're passionate about, and like the entire list of things that you want to do in life. Yeah, I think it's 40 minutes. Thanks to Zoom for cutting us off in the middle. And now I, like sort of want to shift direction in terms of, your association with Jobs for Her, and also in terms of all that women-centric initiatives or equity-centric initiatives that you're a part of. So what's been something that you've learned from that, very diverse and discussions?
Definitely. One of the reason I started off, and I told you the story of me wanting to impact at least one woman. It didn't matter if it was one woman also or only one woman. I think that is another message I would like to leave people with. While I know that when you want to run businesses, you need to have a business plan and you need to have this big ambitious goal and how you achieve that. But sometimes before that, you can keep doing your bits and pieces. Every small little bit counts. So I was okay with impacting one woman. And today it has reached wherever it has reached. I don't have a count of it, right? I realized that mentorship is a huge thing. The benefits of mentorship is a huge thing. I used to do that in my office. And then I saw that platforms like Jobs for Her, Aspire for Her, enable you to do for a larger number of people around you. Just like networking, I said, I used to help, but it was a smaller circle. And suddenly now I find people that I don't know also, and I'm able to do that. So the transformation that I see in people's mindsets, and that's why I call it that, I'm passionate about bringing about a positive mindset shift, is huge. And when I, started at Jobs for Her Foundation, I used to get invited to do a lot of talks because I was the head of Jobs for Her Foundation, not because of anything else. And people used to come back to me and say, Neeraja, it's very different when you speak than when we've heard others, because you speak from your experience, you quote all the stories of your life. And we feel that if you could go through that and you could change, we can also. So that made me realize that if I speak for 5 minutes and it's bringing about such a big transformational change in someone's mindset, I must do more of it. But I can't keep speaking, right? So I said, let me then start writing. So that's how the journey into writing also started. So I started writing on LinkedIn and of course, guest blog sites. And then I thought I'll do a book also for the same reason. So my learning is simple. We are a collection of our experiences, and we've shaped ourselves into whatever we are today. Everyone will shape themselves into based on their experiences. But if you can share your experience with someone and they can fast track that, right? Why not? It is very, very simple thing. And today, with the avenues available, examples, this conversation is nothing but that. Correct? Somebody will listen to this, and we have a mindset change. Why not enable that? What are we losing? What are we gaining? There's no loss and gain in anything. We are enjoying this conversation, but there is definitely going to be a gain to somebody else. We might as well, do that. I always narrate the story of, there was a person in the Jobs for Her group, and she was a woman on a career break, and she got a job. She had an interview on Thursday, and she was asked to restart on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So on Friday, she asked her husband to look after the daughter. She went to work. Over the weekend, she put her child in a daycare. 1 week, everything went fine. The following week, the child refused to go to the daycare, and the child was crying and crying and crying. So this girl, this lady, she called me in the evening. I was returning from Capgemini from Bellandur, around 7:38, and she called me and she said, "I don't know what to do. The child is refusing to go to the daycare. I don't know what to do." So I said, "Why don't you talk to your manager and tell the person that because you had to join like immediately the next day, you didn't have time to settle your child in the daycare. So request 1 week time where you work from home. Mornings anyway you can work. Then afternoon when the child goes to the daycare, you go and sit in the daycare and see what is happening because of which the child is unhappy. Try to fix that. And you tell your manager that you'll come back afterwards and continue work." And this was pre-COVID, so work from home was not really the norm. "You will finish the work." You tell the manager that. She said, "I've been there only for 1 week. How can I even ask for all of this?" I said, "What's the worst that can happen?" That's another mantra of mine. Always my decision making is based on what's the worst that can happen. So right now, you can take only 2 decisions, I told her. One is that you will leave your child crying and you will go to work. Or you don't want the child to cry, so you'll quit your work and you take care of your child. The third option I'm suggesting is talk to your manager and see what happens. If the manager refuses, then you take a call. But something else may happen with that, conversation. She said, "Okay, I'll try." And she called the manager. Next 10 minutes, she was on a call with me again. I was still in the cab. We know our Bangalore traffic, right? She said, "Thank you." I said, "Why?" Because the manager said, "Bring the child along to the office next day." So my problem is solved. I said, "Yeah." Now, where did this come, this advice that I gave to her? Because we have been in those positions, maybe as managers or even as employees, and would have seen that, if you ask for something, so most of the times it gets, acknowledged in something. There'll be some times when it gets refused, but at least ask, and then you figure out the next steps. And all I did was tell her to call the manager, and this woman was so thrilled. Next day, she took the child to the office. All the people in the office, played with the child. She did her work. And then at the end of the day, they all kind of told the child, why is it that she needs to go to the daycare? Because it's important for the mother to come to work and all of that. And the following day, the child went very happily to the daycare. Problem solved. And she always remembers me for this piece of advice that I gave. And I'm thinking, what did I do? I just kind of, just with a commonsensical thing, which has come because of my experience. So I do whatever I do because of that, because I know the impact is huge. We don't even know where it is impacting, who is getting impacted. People will write to me from somewhere and say, "You transformed my life." And say, "What did I do?" I don't know what I did. I will only keep speaking like my mother says, she just keeps talking, and it has an effect. And that's why I do all of this that I do today. The opportunities that I pick up are all in the space of how can I create a positive impact, largely for women and students. Doesn't mean that I'm not, going to speak to men. I'm glad Sunil is doing this conversation with me. Not too many people, talk to me. The men talk to me. But yeah, it is that drives me. That really drives me.
I think just when you said this this woman's story, so there's another story that I wanted to share. So this new guy who had joined the office, and most of the times this came to me that I was usually in charge of or I took on that responsibility to work with people who just joined in because they're coming into a completely new space. And I was usually the talkative one. I was usually happy to, do this and make them comfortable in the organization. And all of that. This guy is like, sir, I have a request to make. And I said, okay, yeah, please go and can I ask for leave tomorrow? I said, yeah, I'll not problem. Like, no, no, I've just joined today. Can I ask leave for tomorrow? I said, okay, like, I sense what's happening. So it's like my brother's getting married, my own brother. I don't know if I can really ask if I can, take this thing. I said, why ruin the office? You could have, you could have said, you push it for 2 more days. He's like, no, no, that was not really like it is the marriage came to be on that day because of some, like the Kundli and other things. And it was not so well planned. And now I'm really afraid to go and ask this person. I said, no, I can't. They said, no, no, you come along. I said, okay. Took him on and said, this brother's getting married. That's tomorrow and he's joined today. Can you do the needful? That leave was approved and he called me from his brother's marriage saying, thank you so much. I never would have gone to my brother's marriage had you not really asked me to go and ask. And when you were sharing this, asking is something that, yeah, if you ask and you don't get, that's completely fine. If you ask and get, that's a whole new different story.
Absolutely. And if you ask and don't get, you will still keep asking. Okay, that is something that you have to ask because your styles have to change. You need to understand, why was it refused? So do a lot more homework and then still go and ask because only a crying baby gets the milk.
Oh, I see. So you said what keeps you going, what drives you. But then really fascinated by the stories of people coming back to work, the stories, the things that they've had to go through, the internal struggles that they're essentially going through to come back to something that they're really passionate about, and even somebody who's even looking for a job shift has so many things going through her or his mind. So what's maybe some advice you'd like to give them from your experience so far?
So one of the things I would say that there might be reasons for you to take a career break. I'm not saying that you should never take a career break, but don't cut yourselves out totally. Keep in touch with the networks that you have, with the people that you know. What happens, most of these people, after 5 years, they want to restart, they will reach out to their manager who was there 5 years ago, and they were not spoken to this person in these 5 years. Correct? You really don't know, and why should that person entertain you anymore? The best of the best friends may not necessarily do that. So keep in touch. I definitely say keep in touch with people and keep in touch in some ways with what you wish to get back into. How do you do that? Read up, could be on social media. I'm not asking you to do huge certifications. People say, oh, what certification will get me a job? See, no certification can guarantee a job. And you do 100 certifications and none of them is what is required, in the organization, it is useless, right? But continue to read, continue to attend some meetups. I'm sure you can make some time, like I did, right? That story where I said 3 months I was on leave, caregiving. But I said every day I'm going to step out for 2 hours. I didn't know I was going on leave for 3 months. It was 6 weeks. In those 6 weeks, I did this 2 hours. I used to volunteer on alternate days and go and meet someone on alternate days. What happened was after the 6 weeks, it extended because my husband fell ill. So I extended my leave. My father-in-law fell ill. And when my father-in-law passed away, of course, I was at home for those 13 days of rituals. Now imagine if I had not been going out in the first few weeks, then my father-in-law passed away. After that, to step out with no job, I'm not going to a job. I'm just going to meet people. You also feel a bit guilty. Oh, what is this, situation at home and you're getting out to meet people. So what I'm saying is continue. A little bit you can always, and you will need to. You need to have your own time also. So do your things. Don't just cut off yourself from everything, from the kind of work that you were doing, the kind of education you had, the kind of people that you knew. So networking is most important and keeping in touch is most important. And third thing that I would say is definitely seek out mentors because the learning that you get from them is beyond what an MBA can give or any other school you go sit, is going to give you. It's quick learning because it's all experiences that are getting shared. So have a mentor for yourselves. And when you have a mentor, ensure that you act on what that mentor says, right? Many of us don't do that. And then mentor will also say, okay, fine, why should I continue to engage with her? Because she comes every week, every 2 weeks and talks to me, she or he, but nothing gets actioned. So ensure that you action whatever has been, kind of communicated or conversed with and take it to the next stage. So I think these three should be good for them to restart.
Absolutely. I think so succinctly put, Sai, I couldn't have answered this any better.
Thank you.
Amazing. So, this Aspire for Her, Madara and a few others that I've contacted. So it feels even as an external person, the vibes from that is, I think, something that's phenomenal. I think I've been a fan of it as and when I heard it. I've always felt, hey, I should do something about, maybe contribute in some ways to that. So if somebody is hearing, maybe you can also just jump in slightly on what you do for Aspire for Her, what Aspire for Her stands for, and what can people do to add to that experience.
Absolutely. So Aspire for Her was started in 2020 by Madhura Das Gupta Sinha. She's an ex-banker, and she, of course, we all see the gender gap globally. And there are enough and more reports that come out every year. World Economic Forum gives out a report to say that India is in the bottom of the pile. We are fourth from the bottom in a list of 146 countries in terms of our economic participation of women, in the workforce. So she said, somebody has to do something, let me do something. That's how she started the platform. She started it for girls in the age group of 18 to 25 because it was felt that this is the most impressionable age. This is when you take certain decisions, be it your career, your marriage, or whatever. So the two things that she wanted to leave these girls with was careers are not a choice. They have to be very intentional about your career. It's not about, okay, let me see where I go. No, because if I always give this example, if you take the car out without, knowing where you're going, and somewhere midway there's a traffic jam, you say, okay, let me go back home because you didn't have a destination in mind. But if you knew this is where I want to go, when there's a traffic jam, you're not going back home. You're going to find other ways to reach that destination. Intentional careers are that. So you have to be very intentional. So then whatever comes your way, you will still keep at it to reach that destination, right? So intentional careers and financial independence for girls is a must. Doesn't matter who you're born to, who you marry. You got to earn your own money and you got to manage your own money. Independence doesn't mean earn. Who is managing your money? Somebody else, then you're not independent, right? So these are the two aspects. And in the last 3 years, the platform has grown beyond this community of girls in colleges to having 15 communities. Girls in school, girls in college, women on a career break, women entrepreneurs, women leaders, women in boards. Not Alone was a community that she launched when COVID, the second wave struck, and we know the devastation that happened during then. So a smallish community of women who lost their primary breadwinners. Today, all of them are financially independent. Okay, so that's Aspire for Her. So we run different kinds of initiatives for the community. Today, we are more than 2.25 lakh members in the community.
Oh, wow.
And of course, corporates engage with us when they want to hire, when they want to, say, retain talent in their organizations, or when they want to build a community. So this year, as we speak, we have launched what we call as the Digital Marathon. We are looking at impacting 100,000 girls and women with digital skills. But there's no way out. All of us need to be digitally literate, right? And we have some partners who are kind of providing their platforms and their courses. We are, kind of the outreach. We go to, large communities and colleges and make this happen. So that's why I head the education initiatives. Last year, we had partnered with, NASCOM Foundation to offer Google certifications. Today, right now, it's IBM that we're partnered with, and there are many other partners, who will come along on this journey of impacting 100,000. So my request to everyone would be become a part of this community, because all of us get a lot of resources from this. Even you can, men, women, doesn't matter. Everyone can be part of the community. Women become members, men become supporters, but all resources are available free of cost to everyone. Mentorship is that one piece which is available only to women, one-on-one mentorship with senior women leaders who you can find on the platform. What can you do to contribute? Tons of things, right? If you have an idea, like Sunil said, I want to do something around Women's Day. So I did try to, kind of connect him to a few people and, coaching for women or, storytelling for women, etc. If you have an idea and if you feel you need a platform to execute it, reach out maybe to Aspire for Her to say. For example, one of the mentors at Aspire for Her, she felt that financial literacy for women is really, really, less. So she said, I want to drive an initiative called this, for financial literacy. And then we've named it She Knows Money. So she is leading this effort. Who is it? The community is Aspire for Mothers. But she's the one leading, conceptualizing it, and finding people who can come and do webinars and sessions, etc. Or you just want to be part of the digital marathon as an example. So you say, okay, how can I contribute to the digital marathon? So one, be a consumer of everything that Aspire for Her offers. Two, all of us can contribute in some way or the other, depending on your bandwidth, and put up your hand to say, this is what I want to do. And we just kind of going to take you, into the stream and make use of your expertise, experience, and time. So that is Aspire for Her.
It feels so warm to just listen to this and say, oh, all of us are welcome. This is our, this is our vision. This is our mission. One thing that came to me is, when the guru is ready, or when the kid is ready and the guru appears. So when you're ready to learn, the guru appears. So when there's a mission, people appear. So
exactly,
ready to learn, ready to run it. Yeah, I have so many other questions on, some of the experiences we've had with Aspire for Her. And yeah, jobs for her. And also you said volunteering, and somewhere in your LinkedIn, I also jumped onto that. They volunteered with Pratham Books, you're a storytelling Sam. So many interesting things. So I have to really ask, and I have seen you on so many podcasts. So what does Neeraja do except, talking?
My mother is right? She keeps speaking.
Yes.
So yeah, I think I blend all of it. The mission is just simple. Anything that will bring about a positive mindset shift. It could be a digital marathon that I am consulting at Aspire for Her. So of course there are different modes, right? Some people are employed at Aspire for Her, some people consult, some people volunteer. So I started as a volunteer. I was a mentor at Aspire for Her, that was volunteering. I used to write blogs, and the idea to make that a book came from them, because every month I used to write a blog, and it was so well received that I thought that it needs to go, beyond just being on a blog site. So that was again volunteering. And the thing about Madhura is that she can pick out your qualities so very well. So she will know a Neeraja will fit this and somebody else will fit that. Like a Neeraja may not be able to run She Knows Money, but Neeraja can run a digital marathon. She's very good at that. So obviously, to all the people who have contributed to Aspire for Her in the early days as volunteers and supporters, when she sees that there is a particular initiative which they can drive very well, and if Aspire for Her gets commercial value out of that, then she will take you on board as a paid engagement. So today, of course, I consult at Aspire for Her, but there's a lot of volunteering also that I do, and that's why I say that when you help, it comes back. You don't always have, okay, I'm spending 10 hours volunteering, no money coming. You can't, count it like that. The way it comes back is unimaginable. And sometimes I, say that it doesn't have to be tangible in the sense of getting a job, getting an opportunity where you make money. The coming back can be in so many different ways. So when COVID struck, my husband, of course, my daughter and husband tested COVID positive. The daughter's was an easy recovery at home. Husband's was not. It was in the peak of 2021 April when there were no beds available in the hospitals and it was chaotic, right, in Bangalore. And we were treating him at home, and the doctor every day would say he needs to be in a hospital. And there was another school of thought which said, don't even send to the hospital because we don't know what's happening in the hospital, because the patient will go and then there is no news, like, right? But the doctor every day said he needs to be in the hospital. So there was one night when I sat in an ambulance with him and I went hospital to hospital. Not a single hospital opened their door. And we have only seen this in movies, right? But that was the reality. Not a single hospital opened their door. And I came back in the morning. Night to morning, I was in the ambulance. And the doctor again said, no, you have to find a hospital. So Jacinta Jayachandran, who runs HopeWorks Foundation, I met her over a network only. And I volunteer at HopeWorks. I called her. She sat for 3 hours calling hospitals. I didn't have that bandwidth. Here is my daughter and there is my husband. His BP is going up and down and this and that. And if you call hospitals, nobody answering. Okay, for all those helplines and the websites. And I'm not saying in a negative manner because that was the traffic. So they did their very best. And I couldn't be on calls, to see, okay, which hospital is available. 3 hours she was on calls. And she got us into St. John's. And I will tell you, I think his recovery was there. 13 days when I went in, they said, don't even ask us. Don't ask us anything. And actually, they allowed me to be with him, which was another thing, right? Because I knew that if he went in alone, he had given up. He had told me, these are the insurance papers. Pay my credit card first and then claim this insurance. Like he had given up because it was that bad. And then all you're seeing around is deaths and you're only seeing that. But they allowed me to be with him in the room with, of course, PPE kit and all of that. It was a risk that I was taking, but I knew if I didn't go in, not that I was going to treat, but there is someone at least to kind of push him and say, do what the doctors are saying. First 5 days, nothing. The doctors didn't say anything to us. He was on an oxygen mask. He was not responding. And then from the 6th day, of course, things changed and we came out after 13 days. That's the intangibles of networking. How do I know Jacinta? Because I connected with her on a network. So everything is not about money and all of that. Things will come back to you in ways that you have not imagined. So please go all out and do what you can. There's enough and more that people are really waiting for in terms of help. Whatever you can do. Each of us can be a role model to many other people. So that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, such a personal story, and I just want to also maybe steal that thunder and share. So most of the times, I think a lot of us feel that it's so personal a story. Should I share this? But the more we share, the better it gets when you network. You're not really getting to network because you're sharing what you want to share, and then the authenticity is always what opens doors, what gets people to work with you, to walk alongside you. And yeah, I think there are so many COVID stories. I think I was a COVID volunteer, and man, that was a nightmare. And
Right.
I think I went with you in that, and I was like, oh, that's crazy news. And that sitting in an ambulance and being there, man, that is very, very difficult. So when you share something like that, I think somebody automatically who's gone through the same story can just instantly connect with you and say, Neeraja, this is also what happened with me. And
that's right.
It happens, and you never know who you're going to meet. And who stands up in times of need. So you never know what. So I think I had another question. So what do you do in tough times? I think I somehow found the answer. You network.
Yeah, I think for me, I always believe tough times don't last too long. I think that's been the philosophy. So I have been largely a very positive person. Even in those 13 days sitting inside that hospital, if I take that as an example, I was positive. I was positive. I never thought negative, but I was also realistic. Let me put it that way. You need to be realistic also because the situation is grave. But you don't keep thinking negative. What if that happens? What if that happens, right? You need to act. So I took the action of going to a hospital. I took the right actions. But after that, I said, okay, I think things will work out. So the positivity of mindset. So recently I met, Neeta Sundarraju, and sometime you may want to, talk to her over a podcast. She is a law of attraction coach. While we have heard this term, we may have read, the way she kind of, explained it to me, and then I have been on that, thinking process. I think because of the positivity that I have always had, I think that's what law of attraction is. What you get, what you vibrate. So if you're vibrating negative, you get negative. You're vibrating positive, you get positive. And that's why I think even in tough situations, and there have been many in my life, and there have been many in everyone's life also, right? Not everyone, talks about it. If you're vibrating in a positive space, only positive things will happen. And that is something that I kind of just believe now after having met Neeta and having spoken to. I've always been like that. I didn't realize that that is what is, eventually pulling me out of, what we call as tough situations. But yes. Another thing that I also realized during those 13 days was, till then I was probably only looking at myself as the anchor. Very, very strong woman. I have gone through all kinds of, things in life and have just believed in myself and, dealt with it. But in those 13 days, I realized I can't just be with myself. I needed an anchor. Somehow I felt, the need for that. It could be something as simple as some practices that you imbibe. But still then, I'd never done any yoga, any meditation, any religious practices, nothing. Nirja is enough. But then I realized Nirja is not enough, because to calm myself, and I didn't know how to, because I don't know any practices. So after that, I tried to get into a little bit of meditation and a little bit of yoga and things like that. So networks are good even for that. Just speaking to someone. There were a lot of people who used to call me during those 13 days. There were a lot of people who used to WhatsApp me. And I knew that on the other side, they're having worse situations. I knew that. But still, they would WhatsApp me to check on me. There were people who didn't call me, but I know they were calling my daughter who was alone at home and checking whether she needed something, right? So I think networks help you so amazingly. It's a strength that you get, knowing that there is someone out there, you can reach out and something, will be done. That's the beauty of it. So yeah, that's the way I deal with tough situations. They will not last for sure. Keep yourselves positive. Difficult, but train yourselves to, kind of. I always narrate this story, story of hope, and that's how hope works. The term has come, or we try to instill hope in these girls who come from economically underprivileged backgrounds. But a story that I heard many years ago was that in a village, it was drought struck, no rains for many, many days. The local church called for a prayer meeting. And they asked everyone to bring in an article of belief. Something that kind of, they resonate with as a belief system for them. So we had everyone walking to the church that day, and because everyone went, they couldn't accommodate everyone inside the church. So they had the prayer outside, and people had, the rosary, they had maybe the cross, whatever was the article of faith. As soon as the prayer started pouring. And in that entire crowd, one little boy opened an umbrella. That was his article of faith. The story always gives me goosebumps. Imagine, what do you need? You're going to pray, it will rain, you need an umbrella. That is the belief you need to have. And that is the belief I always had. Sitting in that hospital for 13 days, I knew we will come out. So tough times will not last, but you need to have that faith, whatever that faith is. It could be God, it could be something else, but have that anchor and that faith and that positivity. You attract what you vibrate.
Yes, so finally, I vibrated in terms of getting you onto this podcast. It has happened. Oh, it's been an hour 20 minutes. Can you believe that?
Yeah, you may have to cut this into 10 parts and put it out. Nobody will listen for 1.5 hours. I think.
I would definitely bet on it that everybody is going to listen for that 1 minutes.
Thank you.
It's been amazing. It's I think we can go on and on with the stories, the experiences that you've had. And unfortunately, I have to, say for editing purposes, call it quits. And then also there's, chapati and Mavan Kasikarna waiting. So I'm
Wow.
waiting to jump into that. So it's been an amazing, amazing time. So we should do another sequel whenever that happens. So
Sure.
putting it out there to the universe, and whenever it comes through, let it come through. It's been a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much. So I think parting thoughts I will not ask you because I would say there's another episode left in this.
True.
Thank you so much for coming, and it's been.
Yeah, the only thing I will tell people is if you've taken the time to listen even to 5 minutes of this, time is money, we say. What do you do with money, right? You need to get something, out of that money. So I would say that take some action, whichever piece, whatever. It could be, networking. It could be being positive. It could be whichever resonated with you, but take some action because that is why we are doing this, right? While we could enjoy the conversation and both of us learn out of it. I'm not denying it because both of us will learn out of this conversation. But it is somebody's taking the effort to put it out to the world out there. Take some action. And actions can be very small. I always say that, right? Every day, try to move even 1 millimeter is good enough. When I say move, it means in terms of your action, which I've not done for my book. Okay. So that is something which I have not, implemented, but everything else. Even as I said, in those days of leave also, I stepped out, right? That was my small action. And that is why, despite me quitting from a job and not knowing what I was going to do, I did not have a job. I kind of built this, brand for myself and what I'm doing today. So take a little bit, even in your worst days, and surely move a little. Over a period of time, you'll see how much you've moved. So that's my last piece.
Thank you so much. And yeah, there's more more nuggets coming your way. Connect with Neeraja on LinkedIn and any other social media. I will also be sharing her LinkedIn link in the description. And please feel free to connect with her. That's the whole point. And you never know what's going to come out of it. Take this chance. Keep in touch. Yeah. So follow these things that's been coming through the podcast. So thank you so much, Neeraja, and that's it for today's podcast. Until next time.
Sure. All right. Bye.